There are multiple studies that have demonstrated conclusively that in the presence of narcissists, people react with acute discomfort. They are upset. There's something missing, something off-key, something half-baked, something not full-fledged, something, in short, a bit alien. Now, this has been established in multiple scientific studies in very prestigious venues such as Harvard University and elsewhere. Exposure of 30 seconds or less, even as few as 3 seconds, triggers this discomfiture. I borrowed a term from the study of robots, of automata, from robotics. The phrase is Uncanny Valley, and it was coined by Masahiro Mori in 1970. I borrowed it and I applied it to the study of narcissistic abuse. I expanded it and called it the Uncanny Valley reaction. When you're in the presence of a narcissist, overt or covert, you react. Your body knows the score. It is your body that reacts initially. Something unconscious, some steerings take place. You may deny it, you may ignore it, you may reframe it, you may even criticize yourself for being so unforgiving and so you should give a second chance and so on. There are a lot of societally approved and condoned mechanisms for dealing with this discomfort. And they're all in favor of the narcissist. You should give people a second chance. Don't be too harsh in your judgment. Don't hurry up. Don't engage in alacrity. Society keeps telling you to compromise, to negotiate, to fit yourself into situations, to conform, and this all works in favor of the narcissist. But the studies are unequivocal. If you're exposed to the narcissist, even via email, even via photograph, let alone video, of fewer than 30 seconds, you know it's a narcissist. Some studies have shown that laypersons diagnose narcissists accurately 85% of the time after an exposure of 30 seconds or fewer to emails, photos, and videos. 85% accurate diagnosis. We know when you come across a narcissist, you know it's a narcissist. Later on, you may tell yourself all kinds of stories because, I don't know, you're lonely, you're sex-starved or whatever, but you know it's a narcissist. But then the question arises, what in the narcissist exactly triggers the uncanny valley reaction? Why does the narcissist provoke in people these largely unconscious responses, this ill at ease, this upset, this discomfiture? What in the narcissist triggers this incipient fight or flight reaction? What emanations, what broadcasts, what messages, what signals, what constituents, what ingredients, what components, what behaviors, body language, something, what in the narcissist causes you to realize that it's a narcissist accurately 85% of the time? And this is the topic of today's video, the secret sauce of the uncanny valley reaction. My name is Sam Vaknin. I'm the author of Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited, and a professor of psychology. The narcissist's discordant notes, the uncanny valley reaction. It starts with body posture. Narcissists hold their bodies in a special way. It's like haughtiness, postural haughtiness. It's like their hubris and arrogance reshape their muscles in a way that exudes and broadcasts it. There's a visionary gaze. There is a tilting of the body, halfway, half sideways. There are facial microaggressions. In short, the body language of the narcissist is pretty unequivocal. Now, people have been describing the narcissist gaze or the narcissist. There's no proof of that, but there is no question that the narcissist comports himself or herself somatically, bodily, corporeally, in a way that is distinguishable from a normal, average, healthy human being. And that is because the narcissist enlists their bodies. Narcissists enlist their bodies and use them, leverage them in order to elicit and extract narcissistic supply from the environment. It's as if the narcissist is saying, look at my body, how unique it is, how specially sculpted, and how reflective it is of my supremacy and godlike qualities. So the first thing is body language, probably. But then we go a bit deeper. Body language is what we call a presentation. That's how the narcissist presents himself. But then there are interactions with the narcissist. On a date, for example, you sit with the narcissist, you're having dinner, if he is generous enough, and you're talking. So there's a lot that goes on in further interactions, in longer term interactions, beyond the initial presentation of the body language and micro facial expressions, beyond these. And it's all tainted. It's all deformed. It's all defective. It's all wrong. It's all off key. It's all discordant. There's something wrong there. Start with the fact that narcissists engage in causative misapprehension. In other words, they often confuse cause and effect, and they engage in what is known as non sequitur. In other words, the conclusions do not necessarily emanate from the premises. It's as if they live in a reason-free, logic-free zone where they make up the rules as they go along. And they contradict themselves within the same sentence very often. And they don't notice the contradiction. And they try to convince you that whatever it is they're saying is logically sound, ineluctable, and syllogistically formidable and firm. In short, what I'm trying to say is that narcissists automatically and unconsciously engage in a form of gaslighting. They're trying to modify your reality testing. They're trying to impinge on your ability to gauge and evaluate reality properly by generating instantly an Alice in Wonderland ambience, a surrealistic paracosm, an alien landscape, a fantastic space that is at the same time illogical. It's not necessarily irrational, but it's illogical. Like A doesn't follow B, or doesn't follow from B. And yet the narcissist presents this alternative virtual reality, this metaverse, this universe, presents it as if it's the only viable option, and that something's wrong with your perception of reality. This latent, implicit, occult, hidden challenge to the way you know things work, to the certainties that you have amassed over a lifetime regarding what makes people tick, a theory of mind, how relationships work, an internal working model, and how the universe functions, also known as physics. When all these are challenged repeatedly, albeit subtly and subliminally, you feel very uncomfortable, very unsafe, very insecure. And the narcissist does it to you from the first moment, from the get-go. Another problem with narcissists, and we are discussing now the elements in the narcissist behaviors and speech acts that result in, and that yield the uncanny valley reaction in people around the narcissist. So another problem is the non-modulated intensity. The narcissist transitions between moments of laxity, languidity, and half lethargy, and moments of eruptive moments, which are volcanic and mercurial and crazy making and frankly, very terrifying. And this non-modulated intensity is often aggressive. It is clear that the narcissist's vehemence, the narcissist's alacrity, the narcissist's intensity, the narcissist's investment, cathexis, emotional investment and physical investment, it's clear that all these have something to do with founts and rivers and lakes and oceans of aggression within the narcissist. That it is the aggression inside that is shaping the narcissist's outside external manifestations, behavioral and verbal. It is as if the narcissist is driven by some imp or demon, that's a metaphor, by some imp or demon which is very, very angry. The narcissist's unabating, all-pervading, all-permeating rage is on clear display. And while it may be sublimated to render it socially acceptable, or it may be modulated, or it may be disguised or camouflaged, it still comes true. You're still witness to this bile, to this venom that is pouring out of the narcissist, that the narcissist exudes unwillingly, and it creates a very uncomfortable ambience and atmosphere and a very, very harrowing experience. And it's there all the time. We are talking now about elements in the narcissist personality, behavior, and presentation, which are always there, ever present, and which put together generate the uncanny valley reaction within fewer than 30 seconds. The next thing you may come across as you interact with a narcissist, perhaps as the narcissist's unwilling interlocutor or audience, is pronoun density, or more precisely, first pronoun density. The narcissist uses an inordinate number of times I, me, myself, mine. So the way the narcissist uses these pronouns is such that it is self-enhancing and self-aggrandizing, and the frequency is insane, is incredible, is untenable, is the pronouns swamp the rest of the speech. A narcissist may use the words I, me, myself, and mine, and my dozens of times in a typical sentence or paragraph, which is like 50 times, 100 times more than a typical human being. And this pronoun density is grating, it's alarming, it's comic sometimes, it's pathetic, and it creates enormous discomfort in the interlocutor or the listener. The pronoun density is coupled with outlandish claims regarding the narcissist's autobiography, or outlandish claims in general. The narcissist tries to establish his or her authority, intellectual authority, command authority, any kind of authority. Narcissist tries to establish a hierarchy, put himself at the top as supreme and superior. And he often, or she often, does this by making exaggerated, egregiously inane, unsubstantiated, crazy-making, illogical, and sometimes irrational, unbelievable, fantastic, childishly fantastic claims. These promulgations and pronouncements and announcements and are counterfactual, they're unrealistic, they're inflated, they're grandiose, they're eminently and evidently nonsensical. They're coupled with entitlement, a grandiose self-concept, self-enhancement, using pronoun density that I mentioned before, and contemptuous superiority, which is visible, ostentatious, exhibited, demonstrably. And when you put all this amalgam together, the aggressive intensity, the self-focus, the pronoun density, the narrowed focus, actually, the outlandish, crazy-making or insane-sounding, almost psychotic claims, the in-your-face demanding grandiosity, the entitlement, which is coupled with aggression, the self-enhancement, the contempt, and the protestations and insistence on one's superiority and supremacy, godlike qualities and perfection. If you put all of these together, of course, it creates a sense of dis-ease, lack of ease, ill at ease. It creates an upset. It unsettles the settled view of the world. It kind of challenges everything you came to believe about what is appropriate and inappropriate in human discourse and exchange. There is some abrogation and undermining of the protocol. Narcissists are protocol busters. They are iconoclasts, but in a very narrow sense of the word. The narcissist seeks to destroy the existing order in order to replace it with a narcissistic cult. And so first of all, he needs to destabilize you. He needs to deharmonize you, take away your harmony. He needs to challenge you. He needs to undermine you. He needs to sabotage everything you believe. So he causes in you mistrust. There's a sense of disorientation, enormous disorientation and dislocation, almost bordering on dissociation, depersonalization, derealization. The narcissist induces in you a dissociative fugue of some kind, and it's very, very frightening on a very, very animalistic level. The whole interaction with the narcissist is very primitive, very primordial, atavistic, and animalistic, as I said. It's two animals gauging each other, measuring each other, evaluating each other. One of the animals being a predator and the other being prey. The next thing, as the narcissist goes on and on, exclaiming inane and outlandish promulgations, as the narcissist goes, spins all kinds of yarns and comes up with self-aggrandizing, self-enhancing narratives. An integral part of this fabric is confabulated memories. As some of you may know by now, those of you who have been victims of my videos, survivors of my videos, I should say, the narcissist confabulates because narcissists are dissociative. They experience memory gaps. In order to bridge these memory gaps, they come up with stories, with narratives, with pieces of fiction, which then they come to believe. They come to regard as facts. And so, as the narcissist tries to lure you into his cobweb, into his spider web, the shared fantasy, he also engages in constant on-the-fly confabulation, which serves to buttress and support the grandiose narratives, and provide a causal thread, provide causation in what otherwise is totally disjointed and discontinuous. It's like the glue holding together the narrative of the shared fantasy. And so you're exposed to a lot of confabulation. Confabulation is perceived, unconsciously perceived by you as lying, as gaslighting. While the narcissist is fully invested in the veracity of his or her confabulations, you, on the other hand, experience these confabulations as manipulative, as Machiavellian attempts to modify your perception of reality and consequently your behaviors, choices, and decisions. So there's a sense that you're being manipulated. And this is, of course, very inconvenient. And it triggers in you highly aggressive reactions. We tend to react to visible manipulation, clear manipulation. We tend to react with aggression. It's a defense. As you react this way, so does the narcissist. As far as the narcissist is concerned, the interaction with other people is binary. Either they could become sources of narcissistic supply and willing participants in the shared fantasy, or they cannot. If they possess the potential to be co-opted into the yarn or into the cobweb of the shared fantasy, then they are positive people. The narcissist splits them. He says they're all good. If you're incapable because you're too possessed of critical thinking, or because you are alert to reality, or because you're highly independent minded, or for whatever reason, if you're unable to become a component or an ingredient of the shared fantasy, a source of narcissistic supply, then you're the enemy. You're all bad. And so throughout the interaction with other people, regardless of the setting, romantic dating, the workplace, church, the family, regardless of the setting, throughout the interaction, the narcissist is always hypervigilant, defensive, and possessed of paranoid ideation. As the interaction with you unfolds, as the narcissist continues to engage with you, he's gauging you, he's evaluating you, he's estimating whether you could become a collaborator, an accomplice in his collusion, whether you could conspire with him to weave this web of shared fantasy and maybe to entrap other people in it. And so it's like a job interview, but a job interview that matters a lot to the narcissist, because if you fail to meet the criteria, if you don't qualify for the job, the only other job available to you is a mortal enemy. And so the narcissist regards you simultaneously as his potential best asset, best friend, best lover, best mother, best everything, all good, faithful, loyal, loving, caring, encompassing source of supply, you name it. And at the same time, you're also potentially the enemy, a mortal enemy, wants to take him down, destroy him, expose him, and so on. And this creates in the narcissist defensive behaviors, hypervigilance, and paranoia. And you, as the narcissist interlocutor or partner, or in interaction with the narcissist, you perceive it, you absorb it. These are like waves emanating from the narcissist. It's miasma. You're exposed to it, you spot it, you have sensors. Every human being does. You have sensors, and you feel this paranoia, this aggression, this defensiveness, this hypervigilance. And of course, it creates a very, very unpleasant and discordant atmosphere. At the same time, the narcissist is trying to charm you into the shared fantasy. This is the antisocial or psychopathic aspect of narcissism, the superficial charm. Now, superficial charm is more common in psychopaths and psychopathic narcissists, also known as malignant narcissists. But all narcissists try to enchant you, to kind of delude you into the shared fantasy, to distort your reality testing and your values and your beliefs and your hopes and your dreams and your fantasies, your wishes, everything, and introduce you into this new narrative where essentially you're a kind of mother figure. So there's a lot of cajoling taking place, a lot of flattery, there's ingratiation. The narcissist is uncouth, but is also ingratiatingly smarmy. The smarminess, it's kind of slimy. It's a feeling of slime. It's as if the narcissist cannot be captured. On the one hand, it's very evasive, very shape-shifting, very fuzzy, unclear, has no real boundaries, and that's the truth. There's nobody there, there's no one there, there's no self on the one hand, and on the other hand, he presents as this kind of self-confident, authoritative, wise, guru-type, teacher-like, savior, rescuer person. And this conflation, which is supposed to be mutually exclusive, the fact that these two poles, these two resonances co-reside in a single human being, this creates a lot of discomfort, a lot of reticence, a lot of reluctance to engage, a lot of hidden fear, and the uncertainty, the unpredictability, the indeterminacy of this person. Who is he? What is he? What is he after? The whole thing is perceived again as manipulative and Machiavellian. And the smarminess, and the superficial charm, and the sliminess, and the uncouth conduct or misconduct with flashes of aggression and counterfactual or counterintuitive moments, the counterpoint, countervailing moments where the narcissist is pleasant, 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 and then extremely unpleasant. Docile, cool, understanding, compassionate, affectionate, and then suddenly extremely aggressive. These sudden flashes, these eruptions, they don't sit well within the narrative. It's as if there's a mask, and the mask keeps falling and exposing the alien behind it. You remember the Alien movies, where there was a human facade, a human front, hiding a monster inside. The narcissist is good at maintaining this facade, but only for so long. There are instances, there are flashes, there are eruptions and ejections where the narcissist, the true narcissist, becomes visible, and it's very disconcerting. It's very frightening. And one of these types of disclosures, I would say non-autonomous disclosures, like unwilling, involuntary disclosures. One type is inappropriate speech, when the narcissist waxes on eloquently, fluently, highbrow, intellectual, and then suddenly emits or ejects a profanity, or says something which is really lowbrow and stupid, and you can't put the two together. Is the narcissist intelligent, or is he imitating intelligence? Is he an intellectual, or is he just parroting someone, possibly plagiarizing someone, which is very common in narcissism? And the profanity, is it just a point of emphasis, a counterpoint, or is it the real essence and quiddity of the person speaking? So the speech is incohesive, not incoherent, but incohesive, in the sense that it is comprised of two strata, two layers, two elements, one of which is low class, lowbrow, uneducated, violent, verbally violent, and honestly pretty dumb or stupid person. And on the other hand, this pretension at sophistication, suaveness, even glibness to some extent, and intellectual vigor, erudition, and you can't put the two together. And these are exactly that's exactly the issue. This gives rise to the uncanny valley reaction. The fact that there's a tectonic clash, there are tectonic plates that keep clashing, keep bumping into each other and generating these visible, violent, aggressive earthquakes, these volcanic eruptions. And it's talking to the narcissist, interacting with the narcissist, let alone sharing your life with the narcissist or sharing a workplace with the narcissist. It feels all the time not only like walking on eggshells, which is more typical of borderline, being with a borderline, but more like in a constant state of low intensity tremors and earthquakes. It's like there's a constant earthquake, but it's very low intensity. 3 or 4 on the Richter scale. The speech is inappropriate and exposes the monster behind the mask. But there are also age-inappropriate behaviors which are much more typical of infants and toddlers. Behaviors like temper tantrums and aggressive entitlement and a vision of the world which is so self-focused and self-centered that it excludes other people or renders them internal objects, splitting people into all good and all bad, or situations into all good and all bad. These are all age inappropriate. These are all infantile defense mechanisms, infantile behaviors. The narcissist is an infant. Infant pretending to be an adult, masquerading as an adult. Absence pretending to be a presence. In short, narcissism, pathological narcissism, is a set or repertory of pretensions. And these pretensions hold only for as long as the narcissist is not under stress and duress and tension and anxiety. When the narcissist is pushed to the corner, push comes to shove, when the narcissist is stressed, when the narcissist becomes anxious, when the narcissist is mocked and ridiculed, shamed, humiliated, exposed, abandoned, rejected, and criticized and disagreed with, the narcissist falls apart. This process is known as decompensation. And the age inappropriateness of the narcissist, the fact that there's a child inside, and that this child is in charge of the machinery, this is the Wizard of Oz, it comes to the fore, it comes to the surface. And of course, it's incredibly unsettling. It's absolutely mind-boggling and terrifying in many cases. Because the narcissist is a child, an infant, there are also mentalization failures. The narcissist is unable to construct a rigorous, applicable theory of mind. In other words, the narcissist is very bad at figuring out what makes people tick. Narcissists are able to spot vulnerabilities, shortcomings, frailties, chinks in the armor of other people. They have cold empathy. They're able to scan other people cognitively and reflexively and gather information which allows them to manipulate other people efficaciously. That much is true. But narcissists are incapable of generating a theory of mind because they don't have access to positive emotions. This access is blocked. And so they don't understand what makes people tick because emotions make people tick, not cognitions. If you don't do emotions, if you don't grasp emotions, if you don't glom emotions, you know nothing about human beings. And in this sense, narcissism is a close cousin of autism spectrum disorders. So there are mentalization failures. And because the narcissist doesn't perceive you as a human being, doesn't perceive you as separate, external, with your own internal life, and is incapable of gauging even your emotions. He has never experienced them personally. There's no shared reality or shared existence between you. There's no what is known in philosophy an intersubjective space between you. So he keeps getting you wrong, disastrously wrong, shockingly wrong. He keeps misinterpreting your motivations, your attitudes, your beliefs, your values, your emotions, your cognitions, things you say. He keeps constantly failing at seeing you as you are, making sense of you, and somehow fitting into you, creating with you a third wholeness. So it's as if the narcissist is indeed some extraterrestrial or alien and is trying to decode you and decipher you. The effort is visible, but it's not working. And there's no click, it's not working. Now, very often you fall in the narcissist trap. You succumb to the shared fantasy. You walk willingly in the door and pass into the narcissist's fantastic counterfactual territory. Very often, of course, you become enamored with the narcissist and addicted to the narcissist and so on. But it's not because you feel, it's not because the narcissist manipulates you. It's because you are manipulating yourself. And that's my Hall of Mirrors effect. You fall in love with the way the narcissist sees you, with your idealized version in the narcissist's gaze, and you get addicted to it, and you want more of it. Now, because the narcissist shares the same episodic autobiographical background as most of his victims, because narcissists are childhood victims of abuse and trauma, and their victims are also childhood victims of abuse and trauma, they are able to leverage this tortured internal child in order to make the victims feel understood. So victims would say, I never felt more understood in my life. He really knew me. The intimacy was instant and immediate. But what victims fail to understand is this is a simulation. It's a simulation. There's no real mentalization taking place. It's the kind of feeling understood that artificial intelligence chatbots provide. It's based on a language model. You share the same language with the narcissist because you share the same experiences. But the way the narcissist copes with his childhood experience is so dramatically different to other people, normal, more healthy people, that there is no common denominator. It's a hoax. It's wrong. And what you really do experience is the mentalization failure. And some people convince themselves that this mentalization failure is actually endearing and charming and disarming. You know, he's like a kid. He doesn't really get it. He doesn't really know how to be an adult, and so on and so forth. And some people find it off-putting and horrifying, frankly. And so the mentalization failure, coupled with the age-inappropriate behaviors, coupled with the inappropriate speech and so on, they give rise to what I call hesitant immaturity. It's as if the narcissist is trying very, very hard to appear to be a mature adult. Not only mature, but well-balanced, well put together, consonant adult. And keeps failing. It's his maturity or her maturity, the hesitant, the intermittent. Maybe a better phrase would be intermittent maturity. And this applies to everything. Intergender relationships, sexual scripts, social scripts, behavioral modes, sublimatory channels, persona, mask. Nothing fits together. Nothing works. Everything is off key. Everything is a work in progress. Everything is almost there, but never there. Everything is full, half-baked and not full-fledged. Everything is like it's like raw material. It's like Michelangelo said that when he looks at a slab of marble, he sees the sculpture within. It's the same. The narcissist is a slab of marble. A slab of marble, and there's a sculpture inside, but it's not visible, not evident. It takes a lot of work to liberate it from the slab of marble, and the result is guaranteed to not be as qualitative as Michelangelo's. And so the narcissist keeps fumbling and bumbling and failing and botching and blundering about like a drunk person, like a blind person, like I don't know, like someone in the dark. It's like he's experimenting all the time. He's trying things on. He's attempting, and it keeps failing. And then he reframes the failure as success. And then, of course, it doesn't lead him anywhere. There's no learning involved. Even the perception of time is wrong. Narcissists don't perceive time as linear. They perceive time as cyclical. That's why narcissists find it very difficult to grasp the consequences of their own actions. Because the narcissist is disjointed and discontinuous. There's no continuity because there's no self, or at least no constellated or integrated self. There's a host of self-states which are loosely associated, very reminiscent of dissociative identity disorder or multiple personality disorder. So because there's no continuity, the narcissist starts anew all the time, from zero, from scratch. Every single day, there's a new narcissist that leapt into existence from the mouth of Zeus, or Kronos, not Zeus. And so there is a new narcissist, and this new narcissist has very little in common with the previous narcissist. They share the same body, but they have different memories, different autobiographies, sometimes different values and beliefs and so on, and this is known as identity diffusion. Narcissist identity disturbance or identity diffusion is extreme, exactly like the borderlines, and this creates major problems in apprehending or perceiving time, causation, and process. There's time symmetry, not time asymmetry, the cyclicality rather than linearity. And you feel it. When you're interacting with the narcissist, you have this feeling that there's no record, there's no history, there's no accumulation. It's as if you're starting from scratch every time, as if nothing is recalled, nothing is remembered. There's no memory. And so the narcissist is forced ultimately to ignore reality, the environment, and you in it, because he lacks the basic instruments, tools, capabilities to structure his or her environment and then create a representation of this environment in his or her mind which would be adequate and functional. This is a total failure. You can't do this without a fully structured, fully integrated, fully constellated, fully functional self. And narcissists don't have this. So instead what they do, they withdraw, they go inwards, they go inside, they adopt a schizoid solution. And even in the midst of a date with a narcissist, an interaction in the workplace, a conversation with a total stranger who happens to be a narcissist, a friendship with a narcissist, any type of interaction which is longer than 30 seconds, you have this feeling that he is talking to himself, that it's not a dialogue, it's a monologue, that you may be the audience, but it's an internal audience. He is self-audiencing, that he is self-supplying, that it's all about him, that you are a consumable, that you are comestible, that you are kind of a food that is digesting you and consuming you and sort of taking over you, that you become an ingredient, a component, a cog, a wheel, a prop in a theater production that takes place inside the narcissist. That's where the stage is. And so ultimately, the main reason for the uncanny valley reaction is that when you're with a narcissist, you feel at all times all alone. And that is very, very upsetting, disconcerting, and primordially terrifying. When you are faced with someone who does not exist, just appears to exist, simulates existence, but is an absence masquerading as a being, someone who is as close as you can get to a ghost, to an apparition, someone who is a walking, talking piece of fiction, a simulacrum. There is nothing, in my view, more frightening than this. It is, after all, the stuff of nightmares.